hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
Family. This is the Outdoor Ruhls Podcast. All right, welcome to the podcast, everybody. It's Mike here. This is an exciting time for Outdoor Ruhls. I would argue one of the more exciting times of the year from a hunting standpoint in Pennsylvania. We're recording this during the first weekend of the rifle deer season there. Matt and Mark are with me today. Say hi, fellas.
Hello.
Hello.
You guys were out yesterday, right?
We were.
And?
Oh, we saw a lot of deer. One small buck. But no shooting, nothing we were after. I'm being a little more picky as we don't, we're pretty good on meat for the year now at this point. So, I'm looking for a little bit better of a buck since the ladies both got it done in archery season.
Yeah, you guys had a pretty successful archery season all around. Mark, Rachel, and CJ both got deer. We've told both those stories on the podcast now, and one we haven't told, Matt, you were successful in archery season too, right?
Yeah, I shot a buck. My daughter Kaylee shot a buck. My son Hunter shot a buck.
So
I'm guiding at this point.
you and Poppy sat in a big blind yesterday morning together, right?
That's right.
Yeah, lots of deer, but no nice bucks to shoot yesterday, so no damage done yet.
Yeah, typically in rifle season it gets a little better the later it gets because all the neighboring farms push deer into the woods. So we kind of got a bedding area that we try not to touch, and hopefully eventually a couple of nice bucks get pushed into it and we get a crack at one of those.
Yeah, we're still getting bucks on camera, but it's almost all at night.
Right. And I always love this time of year because I'm 2 hours behind you guys time zone wise. And so as my work day starts to wear on me in the afternoon, I start watching my phone closer and closer, hoping to get a picture or a phone call from somebody that's out hunting there and allows me to live a little bit vicariously through the Pennsylvania Outdoor Ruhls. I feel, probably sounds weird, but I feel real vested in everything that's going on. It helps keep me sane at work, I think. So anyway, we're going to do something today that we all kind of love to do, and that I always thought if I had a podcast was something that I wanted to tackle. We're going to talk about hunting rifles. And I just love this topic for all the potential arguments that it can generate and all the opinions everybody has about it. And every time I listen to anybody cover it, like when Meat Eater covers it, I always feel like there's things that they're not saying or not getting right. So I'm excited to sit down with my brothers and have this chat today. I guess let's just start out with a little bit of storytelling. Matt, tell us real quick the short version of your first deer and what you were using.
Well, I'm going to start off with my first couple misses.
All right, I like that.
So what I learned now is that when I was a kid, I started off using a pump 760 Remington in 30-06, but Dad always sighted the gun in for me. And every time I ever shot it at the range, I consistently always shot low. And I don't know why or how, but to this day, I cannot shoot a rifle that Dad sights in. It always shoots low for me. So I missed several deer with that gun from the time I was 12 until I bought my first rifle for myself at 18. So the first year that I bought myself a rifle, I bought a 300 Weatherby, which was overkill. And I shot my first buck in Potter County from a tree stand. And it was a 3-pointer, fork on one side and a spike on the other.
I remember that deer well. We were probably 200 yards apart in different tree stands.
Yes.
And I had killed my first buck a year or two before that. And Dad was up there hunting in the same area. So when you got that one, we all met up, and there's two things I really remember about that buck. One was that you hit it well on the first shot, but then you were following up, shooting at it as it ran away. And one of those shots absolutely centered about a 12-inch diameter tree, like 10 feet off the ground, and blew a big hole in that tree. And the other thing I remember was you and I down there working on gutting that deer, and neither one of us had a lot of experience gutting the deer, and Dad felt that we had enough experience to do it ourselves, and he stood there, and we were kind of making a mess of it, and I think it was getting stinky, and I looked back, and Dad was standing there eating a piece of cold pizza. And he extended that piece of pizza to me and said, "You want some?" And I just about lost it. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. I think we all had a little bit of an overkill period in our hunting rifle evolution, but that your first deer was with that 300 Weatherby.
Yes.
Right. And Mark, what about you?
I actually had, I missed a whitetail, my first deer I ever shot at with that same 760. With you, Mike.
Have any of us ever killed a deer with that 760?
No.
I haven't.
I shot at a lot of deer with that gun.
I shot at 2 with it that I missed, a buck and a doe. Or no, I'm sorry, 2 doe, I believe. But the year I was 13, I think 13 or 14, I had purchased a 30-30 Winchester from a family friend whose husband had passed, and I shot a spike, a Potter County 11-pointer, as they're known, with that 30-30. And I hunted with that fairly regularly up until, I don't know, 16 or 17, and I decided to retire it when one very, very, very cold weekend at the camp, with that rifle, you had to squeeze, let the hammer down. There was no safety. And with a gloved hand, I actually shot the bank at camp and decided I was done with that rifle. And I never hunted with it after that.
Yeah. I mean, all joking aside, those old lever action Winchesters or exposed hammer lever actions in general are kind of dangerous that way. I had with a different one. I did the same thing one time at the same place at camp there, trying to let the hammer down, and it slipped out from under my thumb. Those are not ideal rifles particularly for young shooters.
Kids, yeah. We had come in for lunch, I believe. It was one of the rare years we came in for lunch, and we left the gun sitting out at camp outside, so scopes didn't fog up. And then when I went back out from lunch, you're cold, you're even colder when you step outside. So I put all my clothing on and my gloves on, and yeah, when I went to reload it, that happened. It just slipped past my thumb.
Yeah, if you're not, if any of our listeners aren't familiar with this, basically, there's a hammer on the back of these that you have to cock to fire them, but when you load the gun, it cocks the hammer. And so the first thing that you have to do when the gun is loaded is to let that hammer down, and you do it by putting your thumb on top and pulling the trigger, and that allows the hammer to fall. And what you're doing is normally if you just pull the trigger, the hammer would fall and strike the firing pin and the gun would go off, and you're interrupting that with your thumb. But if that if the hammer slips out from underneath your thumb, then the gun goes off.
Yeah.
And they don't build them that way anymore for a good reason. They put a crossbolt safety in them so that there's a fail safe to that. But the old ones aren't like that, and they're a little bit sketchy. And
I mean, that's the only accidental discharge I've ever had. Negligent discharge, I guess, is what they call it now. But we spent a ton of time shooting all year long, shooting shotguns, shooting groundhogs with 22 250s and 22s, and it wasn't from lack of experience with a firearm. It just happened. You know?
Well, I mean, those are valuable lessons in firearm safety. I mean, I always think of that as a cheap lesson where nobody got hurt, but it really left an impression on you. The time it happened to me, it left quite an impression on me too. It's a scary thing to have a gun go off when you don't intend it to, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would, it was a different time then, and I'm not criticizing anybody, but that would not be the rifle I would send a young kid out in the woods with.
No. Right. I mean, they do now. To your point, they do now have a safety, a physical safety. At least the Marlins do.
All lever actions do now.
So they're much safer now today than they were with those pre-90s guns, probably.
Right, but there's still a heck of a lot of Marlins and Winchesters and other lever guns out there in the Pennsylvania woods this morning. A lot of them still in use for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Mark, that Potter County 11-pointer, the spike buck, that was up behind camp too.
That was up behind camp. That was probably pretty close to where Matt shot his first buck. Not far from there.
Yeah, so we probably all killed our first bucks within about 200 or 250 yards of each other, because I killed my first one up there too, which was also, we called it the fork and the spoon buck because it had a fork on one side and a kind of a blade on the other side, or looked a little bit like a spoon. And that one was with an old Winchester Model 70 30-06 that I really loved and that I still have. I killed my first couple of deer with that. That was my first buck, but I killed a couple of does with it before that. But I do remember, speaking of maybe it's more interesting to talk about the first deer you missed, because I had a similar experience, which is there's an old Remington Model 14 pump action 35 Remington in our family. And Matt, did you start out with that gun too? Is that what you carried your first year?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's open sights, so no scope. And that's what Dad had me start with. And I hated that thing. I couldn't hit anything with it. It didn't have a scope on it. And I remember one of my first years hunting these, we were doing a drive up there at camp doing a push. And these two bucks, one of them was really nice, ran down the ridge opposite me like 80 or 90 yards. And I felt like with a scoped rifle, I could have gotten a shot at him. And with that open sight 35 Remington, I couldn't, and I never shot. And then I had another experience in a deer drive with some deer coming out across a logging road. And I missed, I actually missed two bucks in the same drive with that 35 Remington. And I more or less begged Dad to let me carry something else. And I ended up using that 30-06, and I like that much better.
Yeah, I hunted with that gun the first 2 years until you turned 12. And that's when he gave me the pump 30-06 that I couldn't hit anything with.
Quite the lethal group.
I think in the same drive that you missed two bucks is when I missed a buck in that drive too.
Oh yeah, we had deer running like crazy, and that was one of the maybe the single most memorable drive of my life. There were deer bouncing around everywhere in that one.
Was that in one of the deer inclusion zones?
Yes.
Yeah, that was up there in Potter County where we hunt. There were then Penn State University was doing a bunch of forestry research related to deer, and they had deer exclusion areas, so they'd build high tensile fence. It was like 6 to 8 feet tall to keep the deer out, as part of that research. And
it didn't work.
Yeah, the fences did not exclude the deer. In fact, they were pretty good areas. And in that drive, we were, I can't remember if we were driving towards one of those and standing on the edge of it and the deer were running into it, or if we were pushing it out. But regardless, the deer used the heck out of the exclusion zones. I've often wondered a little bit about the results of that research, because there were always deer in those exclusion areas. So anyway, those are stories about our rifles we were using when we were kids. We have a couple rifles in the family that, well, we mentioned one. Matt, you recently learned some stuff about that Model 14 Remington pump action. Where did that come from?
That was great grandfather Gettle on Dad's mom's side of the family.
Right. So like our grandma, it was her dad's. And I know dad used that rifle for years. It's not like I complained about it because I didn't like it, but it's not like there's anything wrong with it. In fact, the only deer that we had mounted in our house for like 30 or 40 years was a buck Dad killed with that, right?
Yeah. And I think he shot that when he was 18.
Right. It was like what is it? Like a 110 to 120 class 8-point.
Yeah, it's a nice buck, but not a big buck by most people's standards anymore.
Right. Not even by Pennsylvania standards anymore. And in fact, Dad has exceeded that a handful of times in the last 15 years. But for a long time, that was a really big buck and he shot that not up in Potter County where we did most of our hunting, but closer to home, right?
Gretna, I believe. Mount Gretna.
Yeah, he shot that in Mount Gretna area of Lebanon County.
Right. So anyway, nothing wrong with that old 35 Remington, and Dad still has that one, right?
Yes, I actually had a plan to try to shoot a doe with it this year in rifle season. More just to challenge myself, because shooting a deer at this point with a scoped rifle is not that tough of a task. But now that we've killed 3 bucks in the family, I don't really need the meat, so I don't know that I'm going to enact that plan.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that, I don't know, that, that thing about hunting rifles, those guns that have family stories tied to them, a hunting rifle is kind of a tool and utilitarian in a lot of ways, but they really, I don't know, they really do sort of mean more than what they are to us. I mean, that old 35 Remington that Dad killed that big buck with that hung in our house as kids. I mean, we'll never get rid of that as a family. Somebody will always have it. It's just a meaningful tie, I think, for us to our hunting past, right?
Yes. The guns that I own that were one or other of my grandfather's are guns I'll never get rid of. Yeah.
And Mark, you've got a rifle or two that came to you that way, right?
Oh yeah, I got that Pump 760. that was Pop Buds.
Yep.
So, and I've actually thought about this season. I might carry that some, especially if I tag out with a buck. I might try to shoot a doe with it. But I also got from Pop Bud. Now, actually, it's in your possession, Mike. But pretty cool 25-20, like a little varmint gun, a little rabbit gun. Oh, you have it, Matt.
Yeah, Mike and I made a trade a while back, and I actually have it.
Well, Mike and I made a trade. I got a Ithaca 10 gauge that you acquired from somehow. What did you get? What did you get, Michael, for the?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But you can see how this goes. It's just like these firearms are always around, and they always will be. They may just change hands among the brothers.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But yeah, it's a Model 25 Remington pump action rifle in 25-20, and I do remember Pop Bud saying that he carried that deer hunting occasionally. But if you go back and listen to the episode that we did with Mom about Pop Bud, what you'll learn is that we're not really sure that Pop Bud would have taken a shot at a deer had it presented itself. He was not really a hunter, but he did occasionally like to take a walk in the woods with a gun when he wasn't cooking at camp. So
yeah, I'm not sure that I would suggest a 25-20 as a round for deer hunting anyway.
No, I'm 100% sure that I wouldn't. It's a cool cartridge, but it's not powerful enough for deer.
I do remember you and I rabbit hunting with it.
Oh yeah, and shot some groundhogs and did some other things with it. It's cool old gun for sure.
I shot a lot of groundhogs with it, but it was expensive to shoot. That was one of the. I mean, you could go buy 22 250 cartridges
for half or
for
a third
the price.
Right.
What you're going to spend for those, if you could even find them. I haven't looked. Can you even find them?
I think there's one company loading them right now.
Yeah, you can find them occasionally, but they're still expensive. I mean, it's still a couple bucks a shot. And then I have a rifle on the totally opposite end of the spectrum that I inherited from Pop Bud, which is a Model 1895 Winchester lever action in 405 Winchester, which is a super cool old gun. It was the rifle that Teddy Roosevelt kind of made famous. That rifle and that cartridge, it was the most powerful repeating rifle in production at the time. Teddy Roosevelt called it his big medicine. Hunted all over the world, including Africa, with it. And I think Pop Bud, both that 25-20 and the 405, I think Pop Bud acquired those probably in exchange for wallpaper work or some kind of side work that he was doing, right?
I think so. I don't think he ever really bought firearms.
Right.
I mean, I have his 30-30 carbine, saddle ring carbine, and I would assume that's the same thing. I doubt he bought that.
Yeah, that's a Model 94 Winchester like Mark was talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Much older one.
I actually have never shot that gun.
I have.
Is that the one you had an accident at camp with?
Yeah, that's the one I had the accident at camp with. That gun pushes primers. It shows pressure signs. I think if you want to shoot that, you got to come up with some kind of low pressure load for it.
Yes. I actually might have tried to shoot a doe with that this year, but I don't want to ruin it.
Right. Or have it blow up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that 405, Dad carried it a couple years in doe season at camp, and he did get one, and I actually shot a couple does with it in Montana when I lived there, but it's in the same way that the 25-20 is not enough for deer. It's probably on that too much for deer, a little bit of overkill end of the spectrum, but it is a cool old rifle, and since it came to me from Pop Bud, it's definitely one of my most cherished hunting possessions.
Yes.
So I guess let's talk a little bit about the setups that you guys are using now. Part of what I want to do in this episode, if anybody's listening that doesn't have a lot of experience with rifles, I'd like to get into a little bit about, where we came from and what we learned. I mean, Matt, you talked about having that that 300 Weatherby Magnum. When I was probably around the same age that you bought that, I bought a Remington 300 Ultra Magnum, which was also wildly overkill. Mark, did you ever own any of those kind of real heavy magnums?
Oh yeah, I have a 300 Weatherby mag.
Yeah, and they have their place, and we'll get into that, but it might not be mostly might not be in the Pennsylvania deer woods.
Yeah, I think I went through a phase where, and I think it might have come from missing deer so often, that I just decided I needed a bigger caliber gun. For some reason, I was at a gun shop and they had a 300 Weatherby, and that's what I sort of decided to buy.
Oh yeah, it was in like the fancy case at Richland Shooter Supply, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we got to be regulars in high school at a local gun shop called Richland Shooter Supply, and they had a fancy gun case like behind glass that you had to ask them to open.
Yeah, I think I paid $1,000 for it when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, it was a nice it's a nice rifle for sure.
I still own it.
Yeah.
And I actually occasionally hunt with it. I actually shot my one and only bear with that.
Oh yeah.
But which is a story for another time. I also bought an Ultra Mag in that same, in a couple of years. The first year they came out with them, we both bought an Ultra Mag, a 300 Ultra Mag. I also own a 257 Weatherby, which is maybe not overkill for deer. I don't know that it would be a rifle I would recommend buying as your first, as something you're going to start out with Pennsylvania hunting wise, but
right.
But yeah, I definitely went to Magnum rifles for a while, and I've come back off of them for the most part now.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. You guys, because you hunt, up at deer camp, that is generally all relatively close range stuff. Like 100 yards is usually a pretty long shot. So when you're going up there to hunt now, what are you carrying?
Well, yeah, I if somebody's asking me what they're going to recommend, yeah, the 30-06 is just an awesome caliber for that, I think.
But what are you carrying, Mark?
Well, you turned me on a few years ago to the 280 Ackley, so mostly that's what I'm carrying right now, and it's kind of it's light. It's best of both worlds rifle. So it's I don't know. It's it's plenty enough for a whitetail, but it's not overkill. It's I think it's a great caliber.
Yeah, and that 280 is a 30-06 case, neck down to 7mm basically, and the Ackley improved is just to push the shoulder forward to get a little more powder capacity. And that gun's in a Kimber, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a bolt action Kimber with like a 24-inch barrel.
Right. Yep. What are they? 5 pounds. Basically the rifle is because you're not actually, it's not a mag bolt. You save some weight. So, but it shoots very similar to the 7 mag.
Right. And what about you, Matt? If you're going to camp, what are you taking?
Well, I carry a variety of different guns at different times because I have a fair amount of options at this point.
You're a connoisseur.
Yeah, Matt's definitely got the most inspired collection of rifles of all of us, which is saying something because Mark and I own a handful ourselves. Go ahead.
So I it's funny because I say I moved away from Magnum rifles, but and part of my decision making for myself at camp especially depends on how many other people I'm providing firearms for. Sometimes that's 4 or 5, depending on
between kids and friends and
other family members if you happen to be home.
Yeah, it's real nice for me. I never have to travel with guns if I'm going to Pennsylvania because I borrow something from Matt.
So I guess what I'll say is what I carried most of the season last year, and honestly, this is probably still overkill, but I carried a 338 Ruger Compact Magnum.
Good you moved away from that Weatherby.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It makes some sense to me. I guess it's, those, like Mark was saying about rifle weight. I mean, you don't have the weight from a Magnum length action when you have a short mag. And
it's also a 20-inch barrel gun, which is nice to carry through the brush. But I like the bigger bullet weights for brush hunting, which is probably a whole nother topic.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I want to touch on that at some point here, but yeah, so you're basically saying that you're taking something that's obviously capable of shooting much farther than 100 yards, but you got plenty of oomph to get the job done, and you're carrying a short gun that's easy to pack through the mountains.
Right. Yeah, the 300 Weatherby has a 26-inch barrel on it. If you have that thing on your shoulder and you're walking around, it's catching limbs and brush and whatever all the time, sticking up above your head, essentially.
Well, yeah, especially for you because you're so short. That barrel sticks way up above your head. Sorry.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I know. And then, Mark, if you're in a situation where you're hunting a field edge or something, you're still carrying the same thing, right? You're still carrying that 280.
Yeah, I mean, that 280, again, shoots like a 7 mag. So Rachel shot just stone to doe last season at like 318. And I mean, the holdover there is like 4 inches or something like that. So, I mean, it's flat shooting. It's fast.
Right.
It's got plenty of energy. So, yeah.
And Matt, what about you when you're in that longer range shooting situation in Pennsylvania?
I'm shooting a 270 Winchester short mag that I bought from you.
Yeah, I know. I lament selling that to you. It's in a Remington Model 7, a whitetail, which is a cool variant with a brown laminated stock and a short fluted barrel, right?
Yes. Honestly, I've never seen one. You can't find them.
No, they're real hard to come by.
That gun shoots terrific.
You can hear the anguish in his voice.
Yeah.
No, they're hard.
I mean, I killed probably my nicest whitetail with that at just over 300 yards on a field edge.
Yeah. Well,
That's
Mark, here my whole plan here, Mark, is that he's still shooting shells that I reloaded for him for that thing. So I think when he runs out of those, maybe I'll be able to buy it back from him cheap.
Good luck.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, so you're shooting something with, slightly flatter shooting, lighter bullets, but that 270 short mag, I think those are 140 grain Nosler Accubons you're shooting out of that, which is a pretty capable setup at a lot of ranges.
Yes.
And and as a versatile gun, that one wouldn't be a terrible thing to take into a tree stand with you either.
No, and I have taken it in a tree stand with me, and I have hunted with it at camp. But
right,
I definitely like it better for a long range option.
Right. And what neither of you guys are carrying anymore in any deer hunting situation is a pump action rifle, right?
No, I mean, I'm not carrying that 30-06. It's and not for the 30-06. I mean, the 30-06 is a great cartridge. I mean, that's for up at camp. That's as good of a deer cartridge, I think, as you can get. But I'm not carrying that. No.
Yeah. And I bring it up just because when we were kids going to deer camp, like, if there were 20 guys in camp, how many pump action Remington rifles do you think were in the gun rack at night?
Half of them at least.
Yeah, I'd say 60%.
And they were virtually all in 270 or 30-06.
Yes.
Yeah.
There might be a rare 35 Remington mixed in there, but I think most of them are 30-06 or 270.
Right. And, I mean, that's kind of just been an overall evolution, because if you go up now, well, first of all, there's not nearly as many guys that go up now, but they're just not nearly as common across the board with us or with other people, right?
Yeah, there's still a few guys that carry those. I can think of 2 or 3, but most people have gone to bolt action.
Yeah, right. Obviously, I mean, kind of like the lever action Winchesters we were talking about. There's still a lot of them being used in Pennsylvania for sure during deer season. There's a ton of people hunting with those pump action rifles, particularly the Remington 760s and 7600s, but they're not anywhere near as common as they used to be.
No, I don't. They're not. I don't think they're as accurate as a bolt action rifle.
Yeah. Matt, you've started 4 different kids hunting now, and Mark, you're getting going on this, although you haven't had CJ rifle hunting yet. Or have you, Mark?
I have not. She is, I mean, she's 8, which people learned in other podcasts here, but she's a little gun shy yet. And I'm letting it come to her with everything that we've done as far as hunting goes. We just let it come to her. So she's happy shooting a crossbow and she doesn't want a gun hunt. I'm not going to force it on her yet, but
yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of decisions to be made as to what I want to start her off with.
I probably have the gun for that.
We know you do. Know. You probably have 7 guns for that, Matt. Well, no. And Matt, I want to talk about 2 things here. I want to talk about, starting kids off and the right rifles for that. But I also want to talk about that in the context, of what we each feel like the bare minimum is that you can responsibly go hunting with. Not at all about what our ideal rifles are for deer hunting, but what that kind of bare minimum is for hunting whitetail deer or mule deer or antelope out west. So Matt, what did you start your kids off with?
Well, both the boys started off with a Remington 260. So it was this Model 700 bolt action in 260 Remington.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, which is real similar to the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yes, if you look at the ballistics, they're almost identical.
I mean, same diameter bullets.
Yes.
Just a slightly different case configuration, but really similar.
Yes, and one of the things that I could get in that caliber at the time, and I don't know if they still make them, was reduced recoil loads. And what I found is they shot very similar, like not enough to even adjust the scope. As a full load at 100 yards, they were pretty much identical. After that, because of velocity, obviously the bullets drop more. But I wasn't worried about a kid shooting more than 100 yards.
Right.
So both of my boys killed their first deer with that gun. I have one daughter that doesn't hunt. Well, she did. She shot one buck and decided that she didn't want to hunt anymore, which is fine.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that, and I think that's really important.
And then Kaylee, the youngest one, I decided she was a little smaller frame than the boys were when she turned 12. So I actually bought a 243. It's a Ruger compact. It's a really short barrel, 18-inch barrel in 243. And she had killed one doe with that.
And she's already moved on from that?
Yes. Last year she shot a buck with a 270 short mag.
Right.
So she actually only hunted with that 243 one season. And it's a nice little gun. but she essentially outgrew it in a year or two, and we just moved on from it already.
Yeah. And Mark, do you have a plan for CJ? Like what do you think you'll start her out with?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to end up borrowing that 243 from Matt. It's always that question of how much cartridge do you want to how much recoil and all those things. I will say that 260 of Matt's, it's a short little rifle, and I always hated shooting that thing. That thing punched you worse than any. I'd rather shoot my 300 or my 280 over that.
I bought that thinking that it would not have much recoil, and honestly, that 260 kicks you about as hard as, maybe not as hard as the magnum caliber stuff, but it's not a lot. It's not a light recoil.
Yeah, I remember that about that gun too.
Yeah, I mean, I bought the 243 knowing that Kaylee was going to outgrow it, with the mindset that it was probably going to get passed around between us for cousins.
Right.
For my nieces and nephews to use.
Right. Is that a Mauser action?
I think it's a Ruger.
Yeah. A Ruger 77. Yeah. I've already bought. I bought a 6.5 Creedmoor in a Kimber rifle a year or two ago that I plan to have my boys start with. I mean, even my older son Robert is still at least a year or two out from shooting that thing, but kind of similar to your 260. I think that's where we're going to start.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty capable rifles. Between us, do we own another 6.5 Creedmoor?
Yeah, I have some in some sporting rifles.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've generally avoided them. I think I'm curmudgeonly about the 6.5 Creedmoor. These kids and their Creedmoors. But no, I do think it's going to be a pretty good rifle for the boys to start with. In that vein, I mean, we've been talking about that 243, Matt. I guess my opinion is that is the bare minimum in terms of power to kill a deer with. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with people who say they hunt with a 22 250 or they hunt with a 223, and I would say that's a little bit more underpowered than I would want or recommend for somebody to try to harvest a whitetail with.
Yeah, I don't think a 22 caliber in any variation. It's more about bullet weight and energy. I don't think that any of those are a good option.
No.
I mean, certainly if it's the only gun that you own and it's the only way that you can go hunting, then I would tell people, I guess to go out. But I mean, if I wouldn't shoot anything less than a 243 or maybe a 6mm, which is essentially a 243.
Yep.
And honestly, even in my opinion, for a full-grown adult, those calibers are too small.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't recommend I wouldn't recommend an adult that didn't have some shoulder issue or some other problem that really limited the amount of recoil that they could stand shooting a 243. And I agree. I think 22 caliber stuff, it's just too small, low bullet weights. And then you combine that with high velocities, and I feel like strange things happen. I mean, there are bullets that are constructed, well enough to harvest deer with a 22, but with a 22 caliber, like a 22 250 or a 223, but you just don't have that much energy. And, I think we talk a lot, and we'll get into it in a bit here, but, a perfectly broadside deer at 75 yards is one thing. Yeah, you can kill that deer with a 223, but that's a perfect world kind of thinking. And the world just isn't perfect when you're out there hunting, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I justified carrying a 300 Weatherby mag for so many years. And I mean, I'll still hunt with it. Honestly, the 280 that I hunt with is Rachel's. I bought it for her for Christmas because we had that oryx hunt with you, Mike, with Caitlin, and I fell in love with that cartridge out there, and I knew it was a low recoil cartridge, and I thought it was perfect for Rachel. But I always justify the mag calibers by saying, you know what, we live in an imperfect world, and if I'm going to hit a deer bad, I'd rather hit a deer bad with a ton of energy than hit a deer bad, under calibered, and then I'm in a situation where things go really bad, from bad to worse.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, we've been more focused on Pennsylvania and whitetail hunting with rifles, but, I obviously now have been doing Western big game hunting stuff for 20 years or something like that. And I always think, there's a really good reason to have Magnum rifles, particularly out here, but, you can make the same arguments really anywhere. And I think of it as, as ballistic and terminal forgiveness, right? I mean, if you can push a relatively heavy bullet relatively quickly, it does a pretty good job of staying in flight and not losing that much ballistically, so not dropping that much, and it maintains a lot of energy when you get there. So we out here, I mean, we find ourselves in situations all the time where, things are between 200 and 400 yards. I mean, here, 200 yards is a close shot. And we generally don't shoot anything past 400 yards. But there's a big difference between 200 and 400 yards. And again, in a perfect world, you got your rangefinder and everything's working, and you know exactly what the range is, and you know exactly where to hold. But if that first shot isn't perfect and, the animal takes off, you just don't have time to range and shoot and range and shoot and range and shoot, especially if you're by yourself. And those Magnum cartridges give you they give you more forgiveness in terms of, how far is the animal. I don't have to be as good at guessing that as I would with something that drops more. My 300 Remington Ultra Mag is just different than a 308 when you get, beyond 300 yards. I get a lot more ballistic forgiveness out of it. And then, Mark, like you're saying, I like to carry something that has enough energy for the game that I'm hunting to get through to the vitals from any angle, no matter what I hit. Right. So, go ahead.
I think that, you're not normally or rarely going to take, a facing dead away from you shot at a deer, an elk, whatever, for the first shot. You're always trying to get at least, quartering one way or the other. But once that animal's hit, you're going to take, and you don't know how good or bad the first shot may have been, especially, you're going to take any shot you can get. So having that extra velocity, energy, in the situation where, I have this animal wounded and it's standing dead away from me, and my only option is to shoot it, in the rear end. You want as much of that as you can have for those situations.
Right. I mean, it's essentially a moral imperative. Yeah. I mean, it's as much as it is a moral imperative, like you're saying, to make that first shot as good as you can make it and not take a bad shot and be patient and, get a broadside or slightly quartering, double lung shot. It's also a moral imperative that once you've fired that first round and it's hit the animal, no matter where it's hit the animal, if that thing's running away, it's a moral imperative for you to continue to follow up until that animal is dead. And like you're saying, Matt, I mean, if it's an elk, which is a pretty big, pretty tough critter, and all the angle you have goes through a hip, you know, you want to go through that thing and find bullet in the vitals, you know, if you can. And I really think that kind of gets lost sometimes. And that, you know, that particularly in the conversations that I hear other people have, I think gets lost. I think we get too focused on the one perfect rifle and the perfect world scenario. And we kind of forget that, you know, if you hunt any amount of time, you are going to see something less than perfect happen from a shooting standpoint. And you have to be able to follow up, and the forgiveness you get, you know, with the ballistic performance and the terminal performance, I think, you know, really warrant consideration, at least consideration of flat shooting, hard hitting Magnum rifles.
Yeah, for me saying that I've gotten away from the 300 Weatherby, I think that might come more from a recoil standpoint, not from a. I mean, I honestly have made some terrible shots with that gun and we're still recovered the deer. And I think, honestly, in some scenarios, some other, you know, had I been carrying some other caliber, some of those deer I probably would not have gotten. We may not have found. And, well, you know, some of that's a progression of my shooting. I've definitely gotten more and more confident as a shooter over the years with a rifle. And I think that starting off the way I did with the pump 30-06 that I, for some reason, couldn't hit anything with, you know, I think really was a confidence problem for a while too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's normal progression as hunters and as shooters, right? I mean, let's face it, when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, I mean, even, you know, 18, 19, 20 for most of us, you just don't have that much experience shooting a game, and it's exciting. You know, your heart rate is through the roof, and you know, you just don't shoot all that well. I mean, most people don't just naturally shoot all that well in those situations. And let's face it, we're getting well into middle age here, some of us. And we have a lot more experience shooting a game, and we still get excited, but we're much more calm. And we probably make better decisions. We pick better shots and we execute them better. So, you know, I think that's just a total natural progression.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time when, you know, I would have shot it, you know, 300, I don't even consider 300 yards a long shot anymore for myself. You know, at one time I wouldn't have probably even considered taking that shot.
Right. Yeah. And then, you know, for me with the Western thing, the other real consideration has become weight. And Mark mentioned it earlier, but I actually bought a Kimber Mountain Ascent in that 280 Ackley because I wanted something that was really lightweight, because boy, I packed that 300 Remington Ultramag around the mountains for many years, and that thing just wears you out. It's just too heavy. And so that Mountain Ascent really is the best balance that I've found of, you know, I don't know that, I mean, I do all my own reloading, and, you know, I don't know that you can quite squeeze 7 mag performance out of that 280. But you can really get it to approach Magnum performance, and you take that and end up, you know, with a scoped rifle in the 6-pound class, and really pleasant to carry. And I don't know why, but that Kimber Mountain Ascent has just really shot well for me. And Caitlin shoots it well too. We've loaned it to a bunch of people that have all really liked it. So I don't know. I think Western big game hunting, that's probably my two real big considerations are, you know, balancing weight and power, and then I guess, you know, shootability of the rifle. You can't have it be so light and whippy that you don't shoot it well, but that Kimber's really worked out quite well for us out here.
I hope I did say close to a 7 mag, not exactly a 7 mag.
I'm not, yeah.
I think I did, but
Right. So let's see. I guess the other conversation that I wanted to have here, the one that you hear all the hunting guys tackle at some point is this idea of the one perfect rifle. So like if you were going to buy one rifle for North American big game, you could pick one thing. What would it be? Matt or Mark? We'll each offer an opinion and then we'll talk about it.
Well, I would probably pick a Remington 700 in 30-06. I will say the only problem with that now is that they're no longer in production. So I guess I'd say a 30-06 caliber in a bolt action rifle.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I've fallen in love with the Kimber. I was actually just looking. I saw one. I'm very tempted to put a bid on, but that mountain ascent in a 30-06. We should preface this by saying there is no one perfect rifle, but
we'll get into that.
But I would probably go with that something like that. The mountain ascent, that Mauser action. It's light and that 30-06 caliber.
Yep, I'm gonna be boring and say exactly the same thing. I would buy a good quality bolt action 24-inch barrel 30-06. I think all the considerations, it's a capable 300-yard gun. It's a capable Pennsylvania tree stand rifle. You can definitely kill a moose with it. You get a huge variety of ammunition choices, bullet weights from 125 grains to 220 grains. And it's probably the easiest thing out there to buy ammunition for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all agree that if you have to buy one rifle to hunt North American big game, buy a bolt action 30-06.
Yes.
Now, I equate this to asking a golfer what the one perfect golf club is. Right?
Yeah, that would be pretty similar.
Yeah. And I think that I often think about if you gave me a full set of golf clubs and you gave Rory McIlroy a 7-iron, he would beat me on the golf course every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, 100 times out of 100.
Right, exactly. And so I look at this a little bit similarly in that, if you had to pick one golf club, you'd probably pick a 7-iron. I don't know, Matt, you're by far the best golfer out of all of us. By far the best golfer of all of us. What would you pick as a golf club?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to go try to play around with one club, it probably would be a 7-iron.
Right, because you can kind of drive with it, and you can definitely hit it from the fairway, and you can chip with it, and you can even putt with it if you have to, right?
Yep.
But you're not going to play as good a round of golf if you only have a 7-iron as if you have a full bag of clubs.
Hopefully not.
I might.
Still better than you, Mike.
Yeah, no. Oh, for sure. Yeah, Matt could beat me 100 out of 100 times if he had a 7-iron and I had a full set of clubs. But, my point is, you can go play golf with one club, but I think most serious golfers wouldn't really do that. And I think in the same way, from a hunting standpoint, you can have one rifle and, if that works for you, or you can have the one perfect rifle for the situation that you're in. But, the idea that there's one perfect rifle for everything, I think, is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There is no perfect rifle. And I would say that the perfect rifle is the one that you're the most confident with.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. And that, we didn't really talk about that, but who was it? Whalen, somebody, famous hunting rifle, you know, or famous shooting writer wrote that only accurate rifles are interesting. And I think that is a great point, Matt. One, I mean, you have to be confident with it. And two, the rifle has to be accurate. It doesn't matter. The cartridge doesn't matter if the rifle's not accurate. Nothing else is really meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I guess, you know, the thing that interests me with hunting rifles is more this idea of purpose-built rifles. And we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, right, with what you guys carry when you're going to hunt dense cover versus when you're going to be out on the field edge. It's kind of the same conversation.
Yeah, I mean, in one hunting season here, there's times I might carry 3 or 4 different rifles just in a 2-week, you know, deer rifle in Pennsylvania.
Right. And then if you're going to chase bears, you're going to take something different.
Yeah, I bought I shot a bear with the 300 Weatherby, and since then I've actually bought a rifle that shoots. I bought a 350 Remington short mag because I actually wanted heavier bullets than the 300 Weatherby would gave me options for.
Right. Yeah, that 350 Remington Magnum was kind of the original short mag before short mags were a thing.
Yeah, I think that was designed in 1968. They designed 2 calibers that year, a 6.5 Remington Magnum and a 350 Remington Magnum, and they did not catch on in that, and you know, they were not popular. They didn't sell very many of them. The short mag idea just kind of died for a while.
Right.
They put those rifles out, and it you know, people didn't buy them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, if out here, like if somebody said, "Oh, we're gonna go elk hunting," and you know, we're not gonna get far from the truck. I don't know why I said that, because it's pretty rarely the case with elk hunting. Maybe more with orcs hunting or something. You know, I'm maybe more likely to grab my 300 Remington Ultra Mag, because if I don't have to carry it around, it shoots flat, it hits really hard, you know, it's accurate, and I'm confident with it. But if I got to go, you know, if we're going to go coos deer hunting, or we're going to go somewhere, you know, we're going to hike way in with a rifle, I'm going to take that 280 Ackley of mine every time, because it's light and it's comfortable to carry, you know, it doesn't wear me out, and it's still, you know, a really capable big game cartridge. But if I'm going to come back to Pennsylvania and hunt with you guys, if I was going to pick something, I've had my eye on a real purpose-built Ruger rifle back in the late 70s. Ruger built a carbine length Model 77 bolt action rifle in 358 Winchester, which I think is a super cool cartridge that probably also never really got its due. But I've often thought that would be the perfect tree stand rifle, partly for what you were talking about, Matt, about carrying a rifle through the brush, not catching on everything because you don't have a barrel sticking up over your head. But I think that's also a consideration in a tree stand, right?
Yeah.
You know, not having that long barrel getting caught on stuff when you're trying to move it around, and just you know, handling real fast.
Yeah, I mean, that the 350, my son absolutely loves that gun, and he hunts with it. That's what he carries here now, even for deer. I essentially barely get to carry it anymore, because he pretty much always has it when rifle season comes in.
Dang kids.
That's right.
Yeah, I think my time for that has not gotten here yet, but it's getting there. Yeah, so I don't know. I think we pretty well covered this conversation. You guys have anything you want to add?
I do want to ask you about that 300 Remington Ultra Mag, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you got that? Do you guys remember the year you got that? That was the 5-gun Christmas.
Oh, we had a 5-gun Christmas that year?
I got an 1187. Aaron got the 260. You got the 300 Remington Ultra Mag. I don't remember what the other two
I
were.
got a flintlock muzzle loader.
And Dad got a flintlock muzzleloader. I think we bought that a flintlock that year. But Christmas afternoon, Mike, you couldn't contain yourself. You had to go to Jeff's and shoot that thing through the chronograph. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Jeff had gotten a chronograph. Our dad's cousin, Jeff, lives on the only piece of land that the Ruhls have ever owned. I think we talked in the first episode about how our family were they were farmers, but sharecroppers, and they only ever really owned 12 acres. And Jeff, my dad's cousin Jeff, still lives there. It's still an operating farm, a very small piece of farm ground. But Jeff had a chronograph, right, that was pretty much brand new.
It's pretty much brand new.
And we didn't know what we were doing. And he set it up on a fence post to shoot through, right?
No. You set it up. You laid down on a pallet.
Okay.
And we set it up in front on, I believe, a cinder block for you to shoot through it. And not knowing what to expect, when you discharged a rifle, the muzzle blast, we had it too close to the muzzle, and the fins on the chronograph exploded. But that was not your concern, because you were rolling around on the ground complaining that you thought you broke your collarbone.
Oh, well, yeah, that 300 Ultra Mag does recoil and have quite a bit of muzzle blast. I don't think I permanently damaged the chronograph, did I?
No, we put the chronograph back together, but...
Yeah, or my shoulder.
Or your shoulder.
We learned some important lessons that day. Yeah.
Let your brother shoot the rifle first.
Yeah, that's probably a good one. Oh boy. Yeah, 5-gun Christmas. That was a real Ruhl family Christmas there.
Yeah.
All right, what else? Think we covered it all. We got purpose-built firearms and all-around rifles and magnum cartridges and what we're carrying. Mark, you going out hunting this afternoon?
Oh yeah. Yep, going out to the box blind.
Matt, are you going to sit with him, or are you going to go sit with Poppy?
Probably Mark, but I haven't really talked to Poppy yet.
All right. Well, obviously we'll be telling more stories. Thanks everybody for listening to us. As always, we'll get a couple photographs of some of these rifles we've talked about and some of the memories with them up on the website at outdoorruhls.com. If you go there to the podcast page and click to this episode, you'll be able to see those. You can always check out what we're doing on Instagram. We're at Outdoor Ruhls there on Instagram. And just as a reminder, Ruhls is RUHL with an S on the end. That's our family name, our last name. And there's lots of other stuff to check out on the website, some recipes and other things there. So yeah, we're on Facebook too, and we're just going to keep doing this. We're going to keep telling family stories. I think we'll be recording an episode real soon about Caitlin's big elk hunt. So that's likely to be the next episode after this. And then in a few weeks, we're all going to be together for Christmas. So I think we'll probably record some stuff up at deer camp while we're home and talk about flintlock muzzleloader hunting and lots of other good stuff. So thanks again for listening. Thanks, guys. Love you.
Love you too.
Yeah.